Let's start recording. All right. There we are. Okay, so in the week 13 folder, you guys will see a series of videos about grazing behavior as well as a note guide. And I also added this morning a note guide and a link for targeted grazing. And I didn't assign a quiz or anything about these two. I know you guys are feeling the pressure, and if you are in 490, we actually have a big assignment due this week as well. So I just, in probably other classes as well. So I didn't want to put a ton of extra things to do this week that weren't going to be super fruitful, but I did want you to have some information available about some things that could potentially help you with your grazing management plan. And so the grazing behavior lecture is going to look at several ways that we can alter animal behavior to increase grazing distribution. So there's some examples in there where we have been able to, previous research has shown, the ability to train animals to eat certain types of feed and that type of thing. And so that might be something of interest to you. There's a few examples in the grazing behavior thing. And then the targeted grazing discussion is a really interesting discussion, because in it, I just give you some background information about targeted grazing and different ways that you can rotate our domesticated species through pasture systems that will help them recover in a timely fashion, decrease invasive weeds or invasive plants, and increase presence of favorable plants. So we can do quite a few of those things through through creating different grazing patterns. And so one of the big tools of targeted grazing is this concept that we call rest. And rest is where a pasture is actually rested for 12 months, so in a full year. And so that becomes very important, especially when trying to establish new seedlings, new grasses, that type of thing. So I thought it would be important for you guys to at least have some background about those two topics, because it may be able to work into part of or one of your solutions for the grazing management plan. So you'll see the grazing behavior lectures and note guides and targeted grazing in the week 13 folder this week, but there is no quiz due. There might be something due after we get through lab on Wednesday. I'm not 100% sure yet. We'll see how lab goes. So just be aware of that. But as of right now, there's not like a scheduled quiz that's due on Friday this week. All right. And then in the grazing management plan folder, you guys may have already seen this. I went ahead and added the link for the iNaturalist that Raylene had shared with us last week, as well as the link for that presentation that we were working through, the Medusa head state of the weed, that was put together by Dr. Gornish and Mr. Davey. And so those two resources are in there as well. And the Medusa head state of the weed presentation, we only got about halfway through, maybe even less than halfway through. So there's a lot more information in that presentation, especially around the area of solutions. So I just wanted all of us to be on the same page about what we knew about Medusa head as a plant, like where it came from, why it's such a problem, how to identify it, when is it grazable, when is it not grazable, etc. And so that's what we worked through last Wednesday in lab. Okay, as far as grazing management plan stuff, this week in lab, we are going to clean up any questions about Medusa head management or Medusa head questions. We'll actually do that today. And then Wednesday, you guys will have access to the forage weight values that Julie collected out of those south pastures that we're going to calculate carrying capacity for. And so I haven't got all that pulled together yet, but I will have it for you on Thursday. And then I'm going to take you through just a really quick way to kind of think about how to calculate carrying capacity. So now that you guys have been through the stocking rate lectures from last week, and you've had a chance to calculate some of the stocking rate problems through the case study that was due last week as well, that really sets you up pretty nicely to calculate carrying capacity. And so we'll work on that this week as both as a group, and then I'll split you off into breakout rooms where you can look at or work on that individually as a group. And so that is what Wednesday is going to look like on the front end of lab. On the back end of lab, it is going to look like me bouncing around to the breakout rooms and doing a spot check with each of you. And so this spot check has points associated with it for every member of the group. Okay, so first of all, we want to make sure we're present on Wednesday, okay, because showing up is part of it. And then the other part of it is just checking in with where you guys are as a group. So just to give you an idea of like what I'm thinking about, when I bounce into your breakout room on Wednesday, you guys will have screen share capability. You can share your Google document with me. And what I am expecting to see completely done is kind of that first section where we talked about short-term and long-term goals and objectives. So we went over that a couple of weeks ago. You guys have had plenty of time to kind of get that figured out. And based on my conversations with individual groups informally, I feel like you guys have that pretty in hand. So that is the section of the grazing management plan that I am looking for being completely done. So if you need to throw some polish on it between now and Wednesday, that is great. And then I'm also going to be looking at and giving feedback on the maps for the site description. So, well, not only the maps for the site description, but the maps coupled with the informational paragraph. And so things that I'll be looking for there are maps with property borders, maps with internal fences and points of interest like the river, the ponds, the fence lines. What else did we talk about? Roads, and those type of things. And then shifting to the vegetation component of that we spent quite a bit of time on 2 weeks ago, some maps about vegetation distribution. So like, where are the pastures that have really high incidence of Medusa head and those type of things. And so the first section of the grazing management plan, goals and objectives, I'm looking for that to be completely filled in. The second section, which is the site description, I'm looking for there to be something there, even if it's rough, that is okay. I just want to see that you guys are working on it. And then the Medusa head management plan, I'm looking for at least you guys to have some solutions listed out. So they don't need to be detailed out at this point in time right now. I realize that we've only been through that over the past week. And so there might be some research that still needs to be done. You guys may need to talk to some people, make some phone calls, that type of thing. So I'm not expecting that section to be fully done, but you guys should at least have identified your solutions. And I want to have a frank conversation about some of those solutions during our time together, because we're really only about 1, 2, 3 weeks away from when you guys present to Julie. And so I want to start getting an idea of what you're thinking of for solutions, so that when we come back that week after Thanksgiving and we meet during lab and we do our last spot check, that I can be like, okay, guys, it looks like you have this solution really well developed, present this one to Julie, okay? So that is what this Wednesday is going to look like. So part carrying capacity, part meeting with groups to make sure you guys are getting everything aligned. All right, so with that, I will open it up for any questions that you guys may have. Okay, cool. No questions. Let's do a little bit of interaction though. So how are you guys feeling about goals and objectives? Do you think as a group that you have that ready to go? Give thumbs up or chime in. Okay, one group. Great.
Casey, I have a question.
Yes.
For the goals and objectives, do you we have it in bullet points? Are you wanting it into like paragraph form, like more in detail, or is
for which section, Nicole?
The goals and objectives.
I think you need an introductory paragraph at minimum.
Okay.
And then if you want to bullet them out after that, that would probably be okay.
Okay, or we can do the introductory paragraph with and include them in there.
Yep. Yep. And that the goals section is an opportunity for you guys to kind of foreshadow what some of those goals will look like too. So they may need some explanation. They should definitely be chunkier than just listing out this is the goal, right? So they should have a little bit of explanation with them too.
Okay, sounds good.
Great, good question. Excellent. Any other questions about goals or objectives? Great. What about questions or comments about site description stuff? So how are we feeling with Google Earth? Do we have images captured with at least property boundaries? Just show me thumbs up on that. Okay, one group, thank you. Okay, so that is definitely something to keep working on. And so talk to me a little bit about what we went over last week, the Medusa head stuff. Are you guys comfortable with the morphology and the physiology of that plant? So the different parts of the plant, the way it grows, why it is such a challenge to be managed. Okay, cool. All right, so Kelvin is asking in the chat, how do stocking rates portion of the plan? So Kelvin, can you just jump in? Can you clarify that question a little bit so I know what you're asking?
Okay, so in my portion of the project, I gotta fill in the stocking rate for our plan.
Yep.
Okay, I'm just wanting more information on that.
Okay, so did you come into class late?
Yes, like 5 minutes late.
Okay, so we covered that a little bit. So, but just to reiterate very quickly, the Wednesday in lab this week, the front part of that lab is actually gonna be giving you guys some background on carrying capacity. So carrying capacity and stocking rate are highly related to one another, and they're going to be figured out very similarly. So you guys had the opportunity last week to get some good practice with stocking rates with the case studies. We're going to use those same principles on Wednesday, and I'm going to give you guys the data for the forage sample weights that were collected actually in those pastures that Julie sent us. So we're gonna get into that more in depth on Wednesday during the first part of lab.
Okay, thank you.
You bet. Okay, great. So it sounds like you guys are comfortable with Medusa head as a problem plant. You have a good handle on that from a physiology and a morphology standpoint. Groups, just kind of give me an idea, and I'll just call out groups 1 through 4. How many solutions have you guys identified so far? And 0 is fine at this point in time. You guys have only had this information for a week. So I just want to make sure that we're at least moving in the right direction. So group number 1, have you guys had an opportunity to identify solutions yet?
I think we got one promising one, but that's kind of it. We're kind of still working through if it's a good fit for the scenario.
Okay, great. What about group number 2?
We have, I think, 3 ideas. We're still kind of trying to research and get some more information on them.
Awesome. Thank you. Group number 3?
We have a few different pretty general ideas for it, but we just need to go more into depth for each one to see like.
Okay, great. Thank you. And group number 4?
We have 3 ideas, and I think all we need is to figure out the details because we found a couple of articles for each solution.
Great. Excellent. Okay, good. I'm happy to hear you guys are jumping off into peer-reviewed literature. So great. Okay, I feel pretty good. I think you guys are on the right track. So I'm excited to see what Wednesday holds for the spot check. Okay, so again, front part of lab is going to be carrying capacity stuff. Last part of lab is going to be me checking in with groups and doing spot checks. And there's, I think 15 points per person there. So we need to be there and contribute. So, okay. Yeah, I feel pretty good about where you guys are at just based on the feedback. So, all right. That is really what I wanted to cover today. So you guys are more than welcome to use the rest of this time to meet in groups. I can set up breakout rooms if you want. You can jump off if you need to. That is totally fine. And I can just plan on seeing you on Wednesday, or I'll stick around for a little bit and be happy to answer any questions that you may have. So just let me know.
Do you mind opening up breakout rooms?
Sure. Tessa, can you tell me
Group 1.
group, like who's in your group?
Luke, Brianna, Courtney, Alexa.
Courtney's gone. Brianna's not here. And Alexa's not here. So I think it's going to be you and Luke.
Sweet.
Okay. All right. Anybody else want to jump to a room?
Can you put group 2 in a room,
Sure.
please?
Nicole, can you remind me who's in your group?
Yes, Stephanie, Alex, and let's see who else. Emily, Emily Paz, I think.
She sent me an email. She wasn't going to be able to be here this morning.
Okay, I think it might just be. It might just be me and Stephanie and Alex right now.
Okay, cool. Anybody else want in a room? Okay. Well, guys, those I just opened those rooms. So if anybody else would like to join a room, I can potentially add another room. I don't know if I can or not. So awesome. Happy to answer any questions for those of you guys that are sticking here in the main room.
Casey, I have a question.
Yeah.
So on Wednesday, I'm hoping that my appointment won't take like too long, but I'm pretty sure it's gonna chime into our lab meeting. So would it be okay if I just like log in and listen? Because I'm meeting with my group tonight either way, so we can like present everything and just like have everything ready for Wednesday.
Okay.
So I'm hoping I can just like listen in, and then once I'm home, I can start participating in everything, if that's
Okay.
okay.
Yeah, that's great. Do you think it's just gonna run into the first part of lab?
Yeah, I'm hoping for like just like the first 30 minutes or an hour.
Okay, great.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, because I would love to have you to where you could participate in the spot check and stuff.
Yeah, of course. And then if I'm like able to go like somewhere private for a little bit at least, I'll for sure do that too.
Okay, great.
Okay,
Great.
thank
Thanks,
you.
Val.